Welcome to News 24/7. Let's take a look at the report of Group 2.
I'm Ronald Christian P.S. Vitas from the SA2 Section 2, and I'm here to report from Group 2. And the report is about the phosphorus and sulfur cycle. Phosphorus. It is an essential to all elements. It is an important part of ATP molecule that stores and gives every cell its energy. It is also found in DNA and RNA, which tells the cells how to look and act. Needless to say, phosphorus is needed for everyday living organism to grow and function. It says here na ang phosphorus is an essential element to all life. Ito daw ay isang mahalagang elemento sa lahat ng buhay. Ito ay isang mahalagang bahagi ng molekula ng ATP o enzyme, triphosphate na nag-iimbak at nagbibigay ng energy sa bawat cell. And it is also found in DNA o sa deoxyribonucleic acid and RNA as a ribonucleic acid na nagsasabi sa mga cell kung paano tumingin at kumilos. Needless daw o hindi kailangan sabihin na ang phosphorus ay kailangan for everyday living organism na lumago at gumana. At mayroong two main forms of phosphorus. Ito ay ang white and red phosphorus. White phosphorus is unpoisonous, waxy solid, and if contact to the skin can cause severe burns. It glows in the dark and spontaneously flammable when exposed to air. Ang white phosphorus daw ay isang nakakalason na waxy solid at ang pagdikit nito sa balat ay maaaring magdulot ng matinding paso. Ito ay kumikinang sa dilim at kusang nasusunog kapag nakalantad ito sa hangin.
Good day, I am Angel Banan, your today's reporter. Henrik Brand was a German alchemist who lived and worked in Hamburg. In 1669, Brand accidentally discovered the chemical element phosphorus while searching for the philosopher's stone, a substance which was believed to transmute base metals into gold. But through his discovery of phosphorus, it became the first known discoverer of an element. In the 1660s, German alchemist Henrik Brand thought he knew the secret to making solid gold by using P. So he set this golden ambition. He dehydrated 1,500 gallons of human urine to make it happen, though P ultimately failed to produce gold. Brand didn't have to flush all his hard work down the toilet. Henrik Brand was obsessed with discovering the philosopher's stone, which was alternatively known as the elixir of life. The philosopher's stone promised its finder eternal life and the ability to turn common metals into gold. Brand grew to believe that human urine offered a gateway to the elixir of life. This was typical alchemical thinking. The alchemist hoped to better understand eternal life through studying the properties of body fluids. Brand collected thousands of liters of urine from his tapeworms. Although someone doing this today would probably be regarded as screwy, it was a common practice to collect urine in early times. It had plenty of uses, such as fertilizing crops, softening leather, and cleaning your teeth. I'm not saying he was a gold digger, but he did marry first one rich lady and then after her death, a second rich lady, and he used their money to literally try to make gold. Back then, a lot of people thought you could change worthless materials into precious metals, and Brand was convinced he could distill gold from a golden substance that he encountered every day, and that is the human urine. He used his wife's money to build a basement laboratory and employed his stepson as a lab assistant. Then he started collecting human urine. As for the conclusion, phosphorus was all started in human urine. But kidding aside, we can see the hardship of Henrik Brand in discovering phosphorus. So muli, ako si Angel Libanan, ang ulat para sa inyo.
from Group 2, and my topic is all about how phosphorus cycle works. So 1 is phosphate is released by the erosion of rocks. 2 is plants and fungi take up the phosphate with their roots. 3rd is phosphorus moves from producers to consumers via food chain. And 4 is phosphorus may seep into groundwater from soil over time, forming into rock. And last is when these rocks erode, the cycling begins again. So phosphorus can be found on the earth in water, soil, and sediment. In the atmosphere, phosphorus can mainly be found as a very small dust particles. Phosphorus moves slowly from deposit on land and in the sediments to living organism, and that much better more slowly back into the soil. And what is the definition of phosphorus cycle? The transport of phosphorus through the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere is a part of phosphorus cycle, which is a biogeochemical process. And this is the phosphorus cycle works step by step. First is weathering, 2nd absorption by plants, 3rd absorption by animals, and lastly is return of phosphorus back to ecosystem. So, weathering. The rocks contain a lot of phosphorus. Absorption by plant. The amount of phosphorus in the soil is very small, so farmers fertilize agricultural area using phosphate. Absorption by animals. The animals absorb phosphorus from the plants or by consuming other plant-eating animals. And the return of phosphorus back to the ecosystem. Sediments and rocks have been exposed to soil and water will eventually weather, releasing phosphorus once more. This process transforms phosphorus from its biological form into its inorganic form, which is then recycled into the soil and water. And in a cycle, phosphorus moves between rocks, water, soil, and sediments, and living organisms. Phosphate ions and other minerals are released from rocks over time by weathering and precipitation. Then, the inorganic phosphate is distributed in the soil and water. Inorganic phosphate from the soil is absorbed by plant. And all the phosphorus in the soil is very distributed. Either organic or inorganic molecules may include it. Also, phosphorus-containing molecules will shift into the soil due to nutrient cycling. Agricultural use. Phosphorus is generally added to the soil through the use of chemical fertilizers and organic sources, including livestock. And soil phosphorus have 3 categories such as soluble phosphorus, labile phosphorus, and stable phosphorus. The first is soluble phosphorus. Is a very small part of the total soil phosphorus, but it is the fraction taken up by plants. Second is labile phosphorus. Is more plentiful than soluble phosphorus, but it is still only a small fraction of total soil phosphorus. And last is stable phosphorus. It is the form unstable to plants and contains the largest fraction of total soil phosphorus. So, the overall health of the plants may suffer too much phosphorus in the soil. Having too much phosphorus in the soil can make zinc and iron deficient since the plants cannot use them right away.
Hi, I'm Lester Obat and I will give you more facts about phosphorus cycle. Did you know that the phosphorus cycle is very slow that it can be tracked for million of years? This is because this process can take thousands, even a million of years. And once phosphorus finally enters the ocean or the soil, where organisms might make use of it, large fractions react into inaccessible chemical forms. Phosphorus cycles through animals and plants is much faster than it does through rocks and sediments. When animals and plants die, phosphate will return to the soils or oceans again during decay. After that, phosphorus will end up in sediments or rock formations again, remaining there for millions of years. The phosphorus cycle does not have gas phase and does not enter the atmosphere. This is because the phosphorus is usually liquid at normal temperatures and pressures. It is mainly cycling through water, soil, and sediments. In the atmosphere, phosphorus can mainly be found as very small dust particles. The main stores of phosphorus in the biosphere are in the Earth's crust. This is because most of Earth's phosphorus is stored as phosphate in rock and in soil. Especially, the form of rock that phosphorus can be found in sedimentary rocks is on oceans and Earth. Bacteria is not a major player in phosphorus cycle, but it helps in the cycling of phosphorus by chemical fixing or releasing in environment. Bacteria convert plant available phosphate into organic forms that are then not available to plants. Although other bacteria make phosphate available by mineralization, the contribution of this is very small. Phosphorus washes from land into streams, then ocean. This is because within the soil, organic forms of phosphate can be made available to plants by bacteria that break down organic matter to inorganic forms of phosphorus. This process is known mineralization. Phosphorus in soil can end up in waterways and eventually oceans. Once there, it can be incorporated into sediments over time. Phosphorus can be deposited as sediments and remains for millions of years. Much of the phosphorus on Earth is tied up in rocks and sediments deposits, from which it's released by weathering, leaching, and mining. Some of it passes through freshwater and terrestrial ecosystem via plants, grazers, predators, and parasites, to be returned to those ecosystems by death and decay. Phosphorus is often the limiting factors for plant growth on land. This is because the qualities of phosphorus in soil are generally small. That is why humans often apply phosphate fertilizer on farmland. Phosphate are also limiting factors for plant growth in marine ecosystems because they are not very water soluble. Phosphorus limits growth in lakes and streams. This is because phosphate salts are only slightly soluble in water. Generally, phosphorus is limiting nutrient in freshwater aquatic system. That is, if all phosphorus is used, plant growth will cease no matter how much nitrogen is available. Phosphorus functions as the growth limiting factors because it is usually present in very low concentration. Once again, this is Lester Obat reporting.
Narito na ang mga balitang dapat abangan sa pangkat 2. Ako nga pala si Ana Marie Paulino, ang inyong tagaulat sa araw na ito. Sulfur cycles. Sulfur cycles is essential components of proteins, primarily to amino acid, cytidines, and methionine. Therefore, it's essential for life. An average cells may have approximately 1% by dry weight. 3. The largest physical reservoir is the Earth crust, where it is found in gypsum and pyrite. 4. The largest reservoirs of biologically useful sulfur is found in the ocean, as a sulfate anions, 26 gallons, dissolved hydrogen sulfide gas, and element sulfur. Tunay nga napakalaki ng ginagampanang bahagi sa ating pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay ng sulfur. Tulad na lamang sa ating mga halaman at maging sa ating mga kahayupan. Because sulfur is essential to all living things, it is taken up as sulfate from the soil or seawater by plants and algae. It is used to make two of the essential amino acids needed to make protein. It is also needed in some coenzyme. Important of sulfur is the greatest commercial use of element production of sulfuric acid, sulfate, and phosphate fertilizer, and other chemical processes. Sulfur is used in matches, insecticide, and fungicide. What are the common use of sulfur? It is used for making car batteries, fertilizer, oil refining, water processing, and mineral extraction. Other application for sulfur based on chemical include rubber, vulcanization, bleaching, and product making, saka cement, detergent, and pesticide, and some gunpowder. Sulfur, after calcium and phosphorus, is the most abundant mineral element found in our body. It is available to us in our diets derived almost exclusively from protein. And yet, only 2 to 20 amino acids normally present in protein contain sulfurs, ngunit maaari nga ba nating kainin ng sulfur? Sulfur is low in toxicity to people. However, ingesting too much sulfur may cause a burning sensation or diarrhea. Breathing in sulfur dust can irritate the airways or cause coughing. It can also be irritating to the skin and eyes. Ngunit sa kabilang banda, mayroon din itong magandang dulot para sa ating buhok. At hindi lamang yan, marami pang iba. Ngunit, ano nga ba ang dulot nito sa ating buhok? Sulfur is a key component of keratin, so it helps to keep the hair strong and reduce the potential for breakage and brightness. Narito na mga balitang dapat abangan sa pangkat 2. Ako nga pala si Ana Marie Paulino, ang inyong taga-ulat. Ngayong araw narito ako sa isang tindahan upang alamin ang isa sa mga produkto ng sulfur. Ito ay kilala bilang tawag na sulfur soap. For the direction of soap. For better result, bath with warm water, then soak thoroughly. Allow soap to stay in 2 to 3 minutes before rinsing off. Pat dry with a towel. Do not rip off. For indication, for pimples and other skin infections. Helps prevent scabies. It is used regularly, aids in the healing of cuts and sore. Relieve itchiness skin. Also treats dandruff caused by fungi. So sobrang laki nung sabon, maaari nyo siyang hatiin sa 3. Isa lamang to sa mga pangunahing produkto ng sulfur kung saan makikita talaga natin kung ano ang mga mabuting dulot sa atin itong sulfur.